Namaste. Today, I was thinking about a very massive exercise that at NCST used to do for many years. That was the exercise of the competence in software technology examination. We call that CST examination. We used to run our diploma programs. I think from the time I joined NCST, we used to run diploma certificate programs and diploma programs, CCST, PGDST, and so on. And we used to conduct a local entrance examination in Mumbai, and that was the mechanism to select the candidates for the exam for the course. Then, in a series of brainstorming, the idea came up that Dr. Ramani, Anji, Dr. Mudur, and all of that together came up with this idea that maybe we should actually broad base this examination. Partly because it will give us more inputs. There is a better selection of candidates. You get opportunity. You give opportunity to the whole nation, and not just people who can appear it from Mumbai. And then there was more thinking around and said, well, instead of just doing a national-wide examination simply for selecting candidates for the exam for our course, can we do a multi-purpose examination? So eventually it came up with a 4-level examination called E, I, D, and G. The E and I primarily catered to as entrance examination to the course. So it was primarily general aptitude, some computer concepts, and those kind of things, and the papers there, very small number of papers. And the higher levels, D and G, was primarily catering to recruitment, to NCST at that time. So we wanted people with a strong computer science background. So there was, the same GA was a common paper across all the levels because we gave a lot of emphasis to problem solving, thinking, visualization, and basic arithmetic capabilities and all that, logical reasoning. So GA was the same paper for all the levels. And then instead of computer concept, you have more advanced ones. So there was computer programming proficiency, and then elective papers on databases, AI, computer graphics, software engineering, and all that. And out of that, the students have to take 2. So selecting candidates for recruitment to NCST was through these higher levels, and the E and I served as entrance examination. Now, why this was interesting was also for a different reason. So this multi-tier examination is not something that many people have attempted, and even today we don't have too many of those. So there were associated challenges. Why this became massive because NCST was a small center, with just about 100 or so staff members. So doing a national-wide examination on its own was a big challenge. So almost like 6 months, the whole of NCST, every group, every section, administration, security, housekeeping staff, everybody used to get involved in one form or the other. Because we also introduced a lot of innovations there in terms of how do you ensure the question paper sanctity, that the quality of the question paper. So there was a multi-level testing, and the mechanism ensured that who's testing the paper doesn't know who's actually the problem setter till we actually start discussing the confusing questions, if any. And so there was 2 levels of testing of the paper, and the assignment of who gets to do the paper was kept very confidential, and only that person was communicated. I mean, remember, this was well before all the technologies of internet and social media and all that actually came up. So we had created a mechanism for this was done, and the security of the questions was also done by saying that you keep a separate PC on which you create the paper and then only transfer it appropriately. So a whole entire process of Paper setting, verification, validation was one part of the whole game. The second part of the game was the administrative overhead of conducting this. So our admin head, I think at that time it was George Erakel. So he would actually start writing to a number of selected schools saying that we want to conduct this exam. We have so many candidates are expected. So this is what remuneration we'll give you, and getting those arrangements. And closer to the exam, once the papers are finalized, even photocopying those papers was a challenge. Of course, there was no question of online examination because computers were just beginning to happen in many places. So most schools wouldn't have got any computers. So these papers would be very carefully packed with our staff accompanying. We'll go to some photocopying center, and big bundles of this carefully photocopied, and would this be brought back to the center. Again, a lot of trivial details were attended to so that there is no leakage, no newspapers are discarded. Any even discarded papers were all collected and brought back to the center to carefully destroy by burning them out. So there was a whole ecosystem that was created, and then the assignment of the NCST persons would only go there as a overall supervision, and the school is entrusted the responsibility of actually conducting the exam. So there was even like every room there will be only 20 candidates, and their sitting numbers were also set, so that the probability of some two people getting the same paper was and who sit next to each other was minimized. So there was obviously a lot of thought process that went into handling the seriousness of this examination. And even the papers that was used there, the answer papers, and even the scribbles that papers used to used for scribbling by the candidates were all collected back and brought back to destroy very carefully. So there was so the one idea was that very very close and very well thought out attention to the whole process to ensure the sanctity and the fairness of this whole operation. The second interesting part was that it was like a more of a family operation. So everybody was involved. So it was not like this is that department job, this is that department job. Every one of us would be involved in some form or the other, and you could see people working till late night, midnight, and beyond in getting all these processes done. So many letters, because there was no emails and all that. So everything went by letters in terms of communication. Travel by train, and in a few select cases by flight, and even local travels by car or high buses and all that. So there was a lot of detailing that was done. So there was an elaborate amount of documenting the processes, what A should do, what B should do, how this should happen, how that should happen. So the systematic way in which it was designed was amazing. Okay, so and the fact that it involved everybody, so we all felt a part of that whole operation. And of course, we were concerned that we should get good candidates both for the course as well as for the examination, for the recruitment. So overall, this was a very, very interesting, memorable experience. And I think almost like 10, 15 years, this exercise was continued. And then when the courses started dropping, and and merger and all that took place, and we became part of CDAC, all that slowly disappeared. But I think there is a lot of interesting models that it threw, which is still worth looking at. Anyone who does any kind of examination on a larger scale, because examination meant highest quality questions. Highest quality in the sense very less probability of errors, very less ambiguity in the papers. So this is one part of it. Making sure that it is properly distributed across the syllabus, no over coverage or under coverage of any of the parts, the degree of difficulty of the questions. So they were all done through basic elaborate testing and review processes. and then the entire process need to be clean and smooth, so that the probability of leaks and papers going out, questions leaking, etc., becomes very minimal. So today we were discussing something like this with somebody, and I remembered those festival atmosphere. It was not really festival; it was a lot of hard work in terms of enormous amount of work that went into it. But the mood was a festival mood, because everybody was involved and everyone was running around doing ABCD. And so that was something that I thought I was remembering. So I thought I'll share it with you, that this was something that NCST did for a long time. So thank you for listening, and do let me know any thoughts and anything that you have on this, and see you next time.